and that's why the tornado warning has been issued. Projecting it out the next half hour puts it in Kimberly Park about 7:27, West Liberty at 7:28. At Alyssa, you'll see that at about 7:40 as it continues that east or slightly southeastward movement, anywhere from about 25 miles per hour. There you go, watching that movement through. Again, tornado warning now in effect for far eastern areas and southeastern areas of Johnson County. Does not include Lone Tree. Also Muscatine County, as well as in far southern Cedar County as the storm moves through. It does include the city of West Liberty over in Muscatine County.
The portion of the storm that we're watching for rotation is a view just west of the Downey area. It's for just north of Highway 6 as of a couple of minutes ago. The storm, though, of course, moving relatively slowly. A couple of areas that we may want to keep an eye on as this goes forward here. There's a little bit of rotation here again, right near the Highway 6 area west of Downey. That's on the very far western edge of that tornado warning, which I'll turn back on here just to give you a picture of where it is. West Liberty's in the path of that, but there is also some rotation here a little bit more toward the leading edge as we have a couple of storm cells that have been kind of merging in the same spot here, and that is causing some different combinations of winds to come together and causing some of these areas of rotation to kind of reform after we really saw them weaken toward the tail end of the 7 o'clock hour in particular. It's those two areas you see there spinning on your screen. Outside of that, this storm did produce a nearly 70 mile per hour wind gust up in Iowa City at the airport. And it looks like they updated the severe thunderstorm warning. That's just for areas along and south of this. That includes more of Johnson, Washington, and Muscatine County to include the threat for 80 mile per hour winds. So that's also some very strong winds, even outside of the threat of any tornadic activity in these cases. So two-pronged threat with this cluster of storms that's now moving through far southeastern Johnson County into Cedar and Muscatine County as well. So it's a couple of things to watch out for.
No, wholeheartedly. And again, as you can see, the entire complex is warned in some way from Solon all the way south through Riverside, back into Tipton as well. Most of that activity right along Highway 38, bounded by Interstate 80 as we head farther toward the south. As we'll put it into motion for you. You see, again, as Corey mentioned, just kind of a couple of cells coming together, winds moving in different directions, causing some of that rotation. Stress, no tornado in the storm right now that we know of. There certainly is there's rotation that could lead to that possibility, and that's why the tornado warning was issued again. That goes until 7:45. Along with that, we could see some hail. We have had some reports of hail here and there across the area, nothing. Did we have golf ball size hail? No, possibility of golf ball size hail.
They ended up taking that, and it came out as a report from emergency managers, I believe, in the Solon area.
Okay, so there was the golf ball size hail in one of the cells that is now pushing into southern areas of Johnson County, northern areas of Muscatine County, and far western areas of Cedar County, kind of the same area, just a little farther south. We've been watching through the evening hours, just farther off toward the west, the cells themselves near the Des Moines area. Moving off to the southeast, those certainly are moving away and staying away from the TV9 viewing area. And then we continue to watch far southern Iowa near the Burlington area, also seeing some warnings. So again, in the areas that saw the highest heat today, kind of set things up, boundary moving to the south. As that occurs, we are once again seeing that possibility of some severe weather. You see as we take a look at our Iowa City cam, lower right-hand corner of your screen, some reduced visibility, certainly as some heavy rain is definitely moving through the Iowa City area. And we did have a report from the Iowa City airport of a 68 mile per hour wind gust a bit earlier as those cells were moving through while it was under that warning for the severe thunderstorm warning that was issued.
The unfortunate thing is that our Iowa City view of this particularly concerning part of the storm is going to be obscured anyway by the rain. So we're just not going to be able to get a great shot of that from where we stand. We'll probably effort to maybe see if we can swing the Solon camera around, but similar story there where there's just a lot of heavy rain in many parts of Johnson and Cedar and Muscatine counties too. If we look at Max 3 real quick, I'll show you those two areas of concern. Still near the Highway 6 area west of the county line between Johnson and Muscatine County. That's where Highway 6 crosses over there. And just south of West Liberty at latest check. A couple of areas as two storms kind of combine and come together to provide that potential. Latest update there from the radar scan. Not a lot of change in terms of how it's presenting on radar, but certainly is showing the potential. There is a new scan a little bit more complete at this point. A little harder to discern as the storm gets itself organized, but I would still, using this other view of the velocity, still say near Highway 70 south of West Liberty and still just west of the Downey area. Not a lot of movement. We said 25 miles per hour, but the movement has been very, very slow. So if you live anywhere within that red box that we're going to pop back up here on your screen, excuse me, that box that includes Downey, West Liberty, Atalissa. It doesn't include West Branch technically. It's a little bit farther south than that. But anywhere Highway 6 and give or take about 5 or 7 miles on either side of it. That's the area that's under the most threat at this point.
And of course, you want to remember that we do have that severe thunderstorm watch that still continues until midnight for all of southern Iowa. That's where those storms continue to push through right now. Damaging wind, we've seen some higher wind reports, large hail, we've seen that, and we've seen some isolated tornadoes. So all of our threats have materialized today as that storm system continues to move across the area. With that tornado warning in effect, I do want to remind you of our safety rules, of course, of where you need to go as those storms are moving in and a tornado warning is issued. Make sure you get to the lowest level of your home. Basement is preferred if you can get to a basement. Grab your bike helmet, get under something sturdy. Put your bike helmet on too, don't just grab it. Put it on, get under something sturdy, particularly a heavy bench, a table under the stairs. Cover with blankets, pillows, towels. Avoid windows, doors, and outside walls, and just wait for that storm to pass. No basement is available. A small interior room. Put as many walls between yourself and the storm as possible. Those are the safest places for you to be when severe weather is pushing through and tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings are issued for your area. 70-mile-an-hour winds in some of these storms, potentially up to 80 now, as Corey mentioned. Nothing to mess around with. So certainly we want you to stay safe, and those are the ways that you can stay the most safe. There's a look across eastern Iowa at the storms, and again, it's really confined, as we've talked about through yesterday, in fact, earlier, saying southern Iowa would certainly be favored for any development, and indeed that's been the case. The tornado warning that's in effect for portions of Cedar as well as Johnson County, that is in effect until 7:45 as we continue to watch those cells move off toward the east, right around 25 miles per hour. Some very heavy rains likely within those cells as well. We're going to go ahead and just take a look at the storm reports that we've seen across the area for the last 6 hours as the storms kind of were pushing across eastern Iowa. And we don't have a lot, certainly in eastern Iowa. We do, though, have a couple of hail reports, one in Jackson County. Had a couple of hail reports in Johnson County as well. As Corey had mentioned, near the Solon area, where we did have a 1.8-inch estimated from radar size of a hailstone. And then, of course, we had a couple of areas of funnel cloud, many funnel cloud reports, but numerous reports near the Ely area that we did have one that did touch the ground. And we did have along Ivanhoe and Joppa Road some damage that our news crews found, some trees down. So certainly a little bit of activity, not a lot, but just a little. We'd rather not have widespread damage, certainly, as any storms push through the area. We'll go ahead and get back to radar. And again, it's the cells moving through Johnson County right now, areas of Cedar County and northern Washington County they were most concerned with. We'll continue to watch those as they push through. That tornado warning is still in effect until 7:45. How does the rotation in the storm continue to look, or is it kind of fading a little bit?
Let's take a look at Max 3 real quick. That's a new severe thunderstorm warning that includes parts of Muscatine and Cedar County, which we'll get to in a second, but it's kind of an extension of this same storm. That's still that one area of some mild rotation west of Downey, just near the Johnson, Cedar, Muscatine County sort of three corner there. Otherwise, it's on the leading edge of this storm where we're watching the possibility of a little bit of rotation southeast of West Liberty. Certainly some stronger winds south of West Liberty as well, potentially 60 to 70 miles per hour as detected by radar. It's a little bit off the ground, but we're pretty close to the radar here, so it translates pretty decently in terms of what you might expect down near the ground. The rotation is not particularly obvious or tight or evident that it's producing a tornado right now. It does seem like there's been a little bit of a tendency toward, and I'm going to zoom out just a hair to get a slightly wider view. I'm going to go back in time here where we had some of those reds and greens coming together in eastern Johnson County. They decided to issue the warning, but now we're seeing more of those blues and greens extend and push from west to east, and it's kind of undercutting that one storm that was merging with the other. And so the rotational winds have perhaps decreased ever so slightly within the last 5 minutes or so.
And I was wondering, as we just take a look at Max 1, almost a little Boeing shape also, kind of starting to form, if we pop that up, which would indicate more of a damaging
Yeah.
wind threat,
Yeah.
taking it away a little bit from some of that tornadic threat that we heard. I had some reports and taking a look, our newsroom at the I-80 DOT cams in that area, and again, reporting some heavier areas of rain. Certainly, and that's what you'd expect. You'd also expect to see some gustier areas of wind, but that's the reports that we have coming from the Iowa DOT cams right now. Again, you can always take a look at our city cams themselves at kcrg.com. They are available to you to take a look. We use our city cams extensively during severe weather. You're seeing the Solon city cam up there right now in the lower right-hand corner of your picture, indicating some of the heavy rain that's moving through the Solon area right now. Again, within that cell, you're not going to find much as you look farther toward the south and look toward the storm itself. But it is moving into areas of Muscatine County quite rapidly right now. And that movement continues off to the east. Earlier movement was at about 25 miles per hour. I bet it has picked up since, probably closer to 35 or 40 miles per hour for the cells that are moving across southern Johnson County and then moving off slowly toward the east. Now there's an additional severe thunderstorm warning within a severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued again. This is until 8:30. It covers an area under severe thunderstorm warning already, plus a little bit farther toward the north. This would be back towards southern areas of Lynn County. It does include portions of Cedar County, as well as Johnson County and southern areas of Lynn County. 70-mile-an-hour winds possible. That's as we're saying this, again, could become more of a damaging wind event. Now, as it moves off toward the east, this is in effect until 8:30, so it'll be in effect for the next, almost hour and a half, issuing this at a lengthy period of time. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the movement is lately within this. The latest storm is what they're saying, and it is moving southeast. They're saying at 25, so they're still looking at some slow movement within that storm. And we'll take a look at a storm track in just a second.
Lots of heavy rain with these storms too. They've been sitting over basically the same part of Johnson County for quite some time at this point, and that would be producing some pretty significant rainfall. I'm actually going to take a look at Max 3, and let's just, for a brief estimate of our rainfall over the past several hours. It's going to take a second to sort of process those numbers and pop it up here in just a second. There we go. As the rain moved through, we haven't had reports of flash flooding yet, but when you have those storms kind of sitting over the same spots and getting 1 to 2 inches within a couple of hours here, that's when we could see some street flooding for sure and some low-lying flooding, but at this point, nothing reported. It looks like they trimmed back the tornado warning just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the velocity view again where we could be seeing that rotation. Johnson County, you're out of it at this point as the area of concern continues to pass to the east. It does look like far southern Cedar County is still included, and right along the Highway 6 corridor is still where we're primarily concerned with this activity. You can still see perhaps a little bit of rotation south of Downey now, kind of in that same area we've been talking about. Just want to make sure that's what the National Weather Service is thinking too. Close to West Liberty, or 9 miles southeast of West Branch. So yeah, it picked up speed a little bit, 35 miles per hour.
Yep, so it did indeed. That warning does continue until 7:45. As far as the tornado warning itself, southern Cedar County, of course, still in the TV9 viewing area. Rotation appears to be very close to the county line, or just points to the south, as Corey had been pointing out. Farther to the north, we'll go ahead and give you that storm track we promised as well for the other severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect until 8:30. Latest movement on the cells off to the north, to the southeast, about 25 miles per hour. So that would again move that toward the West Branch area, and again to about 7:31, so about 3 minutes from now. Cedar Bluff about 7:45, Cedar Valley at 7:51, Buchanan 7:52, Cedar Valley Park at 7:53, Tipton about 8:05, and we head into Wilton. That would be at about 8:05. That, of course, back in areas of Muscatine County. So again, that's the northern portion of those cells that could also bring some very heavy rains, and looking at the possibility of 70-mile-an-hour winds as those storms move across portions of eastern Iowa. And again, that's the only complex of cells we're following right now in the TV9 viewing area. And I would hope that once those move just far enough to the south or off to the east, It would eliminate that severe threat for us, and after that, we'll just enjoy some quieter weather conditions that will move in. I don't know if you guys want to pull up some of the DOT cams. That'd be great to take a look at too, as we're continuing to follow those cells, moving right along Interstate 80 and points down toward the south. Certainly bringing some very, very heavy rains, as Corey had just mentioned, and taking a look at the rainfall rates out of these storms. That flash flood watch does continue into tomorrow morning for southern Iowa. It does include Johnson, Cedar, as well as Washington counties. Muscatine County, you'd be included in that as well. For the heavy rains that will continue to move through as we head through the next couple of hours. Probably 9, 10 o'clock, a lot of this activity looks to be winding down, but that's still another hour and a half or so, or 2.5 hours or so before we move it out of the TV9 viewing area entirely and wait for the next chance of rain, which comes in on Friday or Thursday night, Friday, as we do watch another storm system head our way. After that, though, before that, I should say, we're going to get a nice break with some less humid conditions and quieter weather conditions for both Wednesday and Thursday.
Looks like we got a view of Interstate 80 near West Branch, where cars have pulled over on the side, which isn't the worst idea in some cases. Just make sure to turn those emergency flashers on. People driving with them on too is not the worst idea. Certainly have the headlights on in this type of rain, but intense rainfall, some decent wind gusts, it looks like. Not overly intense, but probably involved there too. So certainly a view of the storm as it moves through West Branch. Some lightning too, evident from that picture.
And again, good advice to just slow down as that's moving through, and certainly drivers heeding that, and as you said, some of them pulling off to the side, waiting for that particularly heavier areas of rain to move through and the visibilities to once again improve. That again, I-80 at West Branch. So again, you're looking at heavier rains right now, and you do notice in the bottom picture there was a little bit of stronger wind as well. The potential is there for some 70-mile-an-hour winds out of that same cell. That is a severe thunderstorm warned cell that extends farther to the north as well. We'll take a look. It gets into northern areas of Johnson County and goes into the southwestern corner of Cedar County until 8:30. That potential is there for some of the strong winds as those storms continue to push east and southeast right around 25 miles per hour, producing some frequent lightning as well as the possibility of some strong winds as well. Let's go ahead and just take a look at lightning itself. So let's take a look at lightning and only lightning. And you see, again, really concentrated area of energy, southern Linn County, the eastern half of Johnson County, and the southwestern corner of Cedar County, exactly where we have those storms there right now. That's where most of the energy is, and certainly some pretty powerful lightning moving through that area as well. So certainly keep that in mind. If you're in those areas, certainly if you're in the tornado-warned area, you want to definitely be in your safe shelter, but you also could be in those other areas with the winds that are going to be passing through.
Take a look at Max 3, where we can show something that shows where the rotation has been over the past, let's say, 15 to 30 minutes moving through this warning. That's why they issued it. It follows this path from eastern Johnson County into central Muscatine County. Cedar County, that small sliver south of Interstate 80 that's in this warning, you are technically sort of staying out of the path of this rotation. If we put our velocity view back on, though, the rotation becomes less evident. An emergency manager said a spotter reported some rotation in the clouds near the Moscow area, which is east of Annalisa and Highway 6, actually outside of the tornado warning in Muscatine County. But still kind of keeping an eye on this area back toward the western portion of Muscatine County as well. It's broad rotation, at least as on radar. It extends up into the clouds a little bit too on our radar view from the Quad Cities. So there's some sign of rotation there, but it's not particularly evident. It's in a part of the storm that's kind of, it would be hard to see if there was a tornado because there's so much heavy rain falling. So it's going to be difficult to get some ground truth out of this if there even is a tornado taking place. Got another, how long left with this warning, Joe?
We got till 7:45 if they continue it that long for Cedar as well as Muscatine County. And want to stress, those of you in Cedar County, and Corey was pointing it out, it's the far, far southern sliver of Cedar County. So that would be south of West Branch, south of Rochester, south of Centerdale, Downey, still involved in that. But as Corey was mentioning as well, the rotation really appears to be more in Muscatine County right now, staying out of Cedar County at all. That would be just south of Centerdale, where we do have the warning polygon still in effect. until 7:45, which would take it for about the next 11 minutes or so, as that movement still continues off to the east-southeast, and as we mentioned, picking up a little bit now at about 35 miles per hour. Farther to the north, the cells that'll be again moving through the West Branch area and approaching areas of Cedar County. Those were moving about 25, and the potential will be there for some very, very heavy rain will continue as those storms push out of the area. That area to the north, severe thunderstorm warning, that continues until 8:30. And farther to the south, the severe thunderstorm warning also continues. Let's see, continues until, there it is,
I believe that's 8:15.
8:15. That continues until 8:15. So again, that's the Johnson County warning. But we're watching, and there's not, if we widen this out, you're just not seeing much more development along the boundary that's out there. Still has to move to the south and still worth watching. But as we kind of evolve and move these into areas of Muscatine County, Lee County, farther to the south, into areas near the Quad Cities, they will begin to move out of the TV9 viewing area. And the main severe weather threat at least appears to be minimized as that occurs as we head through the next couple of hours. Certainly plenty of warnings out there. Many of the cells that have developed across portions of Illinois and Iowa under some type of warning. One tornado warning still west of Des Moines. And southwest of Des Moines, plenty of severe thunderstorm warnings west of Ottumwa right now, and again concentrated across portions of Johnson, northern Washington, and Cedar County in the TV9 viewing area. That's where we have our warnings. Haven't seen much north of Highway 30 today, as we expected the development would be south, and indeed that is what has happened.
Let's take a quick look at that same DOT camera we were looking at before. You can tell an improvement already near the West Branch area, which is a little bit north of this warning box in Cedar County, but they're catching a little bit of a lull at this point. There probably is some more rain moving in from the west that's moving out of eastern Johnson County to provide the possibility of some of that coming there pretty soon. Otherwise, our storm remains relatively disorganized from a rotational standpoint. We can look at Max 3 for some of that velocity view, where certainly there are evidence of strong winds moving through Muscatine County, and some evidence of rotation as well, which again is staying south of the Muscatine-Cedar County line at this point, really has so far. I'd say it's probably about in this area south of West Liberty. Looking at some of the velocity data we have, it extends a little bit into the clouds, but perhaps more of a sign of just general rotation in the storm necessarily than an imminent tornadic threat. But it's there, so it's certainly worth respecting. If you live inside this tornado warning area, certainly do seek shelter until the storms pass. Like you said, Joe, pretty much every storm today that has developed had some kind of warning with it.
No, but it has, and also had carried a heavy rain threat with it as well. Be interesting to watch the rainfall totals that come in from some of these as we see those come in later this evening and into tomorrow morning. Certainly some heavy rains, more saturated ground. The best news is we get a break. After this does come to an end, we're not going to see rain for the next couple of days, and then later on Thursday night, Friday, we're going to watch that. That could bring some more heavy rains, potentially more severe weather as well. We'll see how that system continues to move and evolve. But again, we still see southern areas of Cedar County, although it looks like it has weakened in nature. Also back toward areas, as you can see, of eastern Johnson County. That also appears to have weakened a bit, at least in its reflectivity, in the past couple of radar scans that have been moving through.
Significantly, I would say. That really does take a lot of the punch out of it, both in its ability to produce wind and certainly the hail threat would be reduced from that. Is there really a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of southern Linn County?
Yeah, it was extended. That was, and I don't. It was put in when they put that one box in effect. They did include southern area of Linn. I don't know if there was a little boundary coming in, because there's been boundaries flying all over the place along this line, and thought there might be a little development farther off to the north, but that certainly did not occur. So we never did see anything from that warning in the Linn County area at all. Rotation-wise,
not a lot to see. Not a lot to see at this point. Certainly strong winds. The storm itself, again, toward the mid-levels, is showing some rotation. At the low levels, it's fairly weak. We can show it again on Max 3 to just kind of give a picture of what I'm speaking about here. It's this area out in front where the strongest winds, and we've had some reports of estimated 60-mile-per-hour gusts with this patch of wind that's staying south of Cedar County again. It's moving through eastern Muscatine County off toward the Quad Cities. Some reports from emergency managers down that way of some fairly strong winds. It's this portion of the western side of the county where There's some evidence of rotation, but it's broad, very broad in the storm, both at the low levels and at the upper levels. It stays south of West Liberty, along and north of Highway 22, near the Highway 70 sort of intersection there. But if there was rotation that you could see, it would be very much embedded within rain, some very heavy rain at that. So it would be very hard to detect. Not much change there with the latest radar scan here in the area of concern, which is good news. We don't want to see it strengthening by any means, and so far it really hasn't.
Just take a look at some of the precipitation rates within the storm, how fast that rain was falling, estimated by radar. At portions of time, that eastern areas of Johnson County, just heading into Cedar County, had rainfall rates that were close to 2 inches per hour, which is incredibly heavy rain, almost 2 inches an hour across areas of Muscatine County as well. Southern areas of Cedar County, about 1 inch an hour, so certainly some very heavy rains that were pushing through the area as well. Have not seen much, in fact, anything in the way of any major hail from the storms themselves, and thankfully, very few overall storm reports that have been damaging at all. We've had the one report of damage that was in Lynn County, Joppa Road, as well as Ivanhoe Road, where we did have some areas of trees down. Reported by a spotter that it potentially was a tornado that caused that as it was moving through, and certainly could have. There certainly were some funnel clouds in the area, a couple of touchdowns here and there, but I'm sure they did not last long, and that's why the damage has been minimal, and that's exactly what we like to see as we watch the storms moving through. Looks like the Weather Service is going to let this go for another 4.5 minutes yet.
Yeah, no new news from them about whether they're going to continue or not. Looks like there was one new-ish report of perhaps some power lines down around the Dodge Street neighborhood, like the North Dodge Street neighborhood in Iowa City. So there may be a small power outage on that section of town, up on the northeast side of the city, but otherwise, with that 68-mile-per-hour gust we saw at the Iowa City airport, no other reports of damage at this point, which again is very good news. But the rotation with this storm stays weak, and I would be pretty surprised if they let this warning go any longer than its expiration, which is coming up here in now 4 minutes.
The entire complex that we're watching from just south of Solon now, so the Solon area where you had some heavy rains earlier and some areas of hail, that has ended in your area. Still some rain certainly falling. It's farther down to your south and east. We still have extreme southern areas of Cedar County included within that tornado warning. Goes until 7:45, as Corey mentioned, for about the next 4 minutes or so. We are going to give you a wider picture right now across all of eastern Iowa, and you can see little scattered areas of rain here and there. Strongest cells certainly in far southeastern Iowa right now, just about to move out of the TV9 viewing area. And we have some areas near Des Moines moving almost south or slightly southeast and all the way back toward Omaha. That whole boundary is kind of watching things develop, and some new development now across areas of Joe Davis County, back north of Rockford, Illinois, into southern areas of Wisconsin. That'll be pushing off to the southeast and staying away from eastern Iowa at this point. But we'll watch and see if there could be any additional development with that boundary still in the area, and the atmosphere still, again, relatively untapped in some locations. The farther south you get now, though, you certainly have lost quite a bit of energy as this storm system has been pushing across Iowa County, pushed across southern Lynn, areas of Jones, as well as most of Cedar, Johnson, and northern areas of Washington County. Keokuk County hasn't seen much. Some scattered light rain showers have moved through the area, but the storms themselves have remained off to your west or off to your north as they've moved through the area as well.
It's just been kind of a day where we have tons of storm energy with a lot of heat, a lot of humidity, a lot of proper energy at the upper levels as well, and that has fed these storms pretty good as we go through the day. We still have some in place. We take Max 3, I can show you that, across the state. It's near and south of that boundary. Those bright orange, yellows, and whites on your screen indicate those high levels of energy, and that has been ample. That's no shortage of that. But the winds in the atmosphere, from the surface all the way up to about, I don't know, 50, 60,000 feet, it's been a little bit less organized, not the classic sort of severe weather setup where we can say it's changing with speed and direction with height, which gets these storms to sort of be at their strongest, really make the most of those energy. Today, instead, we've been seeing storms moving 5 miles an hour. We've been seeing storms that have been moving a little bit to the west, some have been moving to the east, some have been moving to the south. And that's really a good indication of that kind of random nature of this development that's using that energy up, but without that sort of organizing force of the upper level winds is why we've seen sort of sporadic reports of damage and no significant rotation other than that one possible tornado near Ely earlier today, which again is not a bad thing, but it just does show the ingredients weren't perfect today, but they were enough to give us at least
Enough
some
to get a
trouble.
little bit, and again, as you said, it's good that we don't have to worry. The tornado warning is going to be for, I'm guessing that's for Muscatine County, yes. So they have extended the warning across areas of Muscatine County, farther off toward the west. The one that will expire is farther back. The rotation has changed direction, and that now is moving it out of the TV9 viewing area. We're going to continue to stay in the weather lab, of course. We continue to monitor the weather as we watch and see. If there could be any development, just give you a little wider picture as well. Once again on radar, scattered development back off just south of Dubuque. We'll continue to watch that carefully and see if any of that does anything and develops farther off toward the south and west. But again, scattered activity moving out with the warning now, the tornado warning out of the TV9 viewing area. We are going to leave our coverage for now. We're going to let Corey go home and get some sleep. You have a morning show to do tomorrow morning.
Indeed.
Thank you for sticking around and being around. Thank you again for watching us and continuing to watch us follow severe weather across eastern Iowa, as we will do here in the TV9 Weather Lab. Keep it here on your trusted local news and weather source, KCRG TV9.
Severe weather on KCRG TV 9.